Preseason game number one is in the books. We have a lot to go over who stood out and who did not tonight, live on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Real football back on the field. Hope you enjoyed it. There's a ton to cover, and we're going to give you our live takes here post-game. We're brought to you by LinkedIn. You can find the qualified candidates that you're looking for easier and for free by posting on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your jobs for free. Terms and conditions apply. This is Chris Clark. I'm Ryan Tracy. Welcome back to what we do is post-game live. If you don't know us, we're going to point the wrong way, as I always do, because I use the right hand. Chris Clark, KC Chiefs Corner. I'm at Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. We're going to get to who all the standouts are all the way through the fourth quarter for me. We're going to come back just before that and go over how the run game looked tonight on multiple different levels. And we're going to start tonight with where the ones are and a couple of question marks. Make sure that you like and sub and hit the bell. Thanks for making us your first listen after this preseason game number one. Make sure you check out another Locked On show. Like, sub, hit the bell here on YouTube. Check out Spotify, check out Apple Podcasts, and you can get us always for free on all those platforms. Chris, it was, I think, a short night for the ones, particularly including Kingsley Suamataia, which I want to know your opinion on. But I felt like they moved the ball well. I felt like they were efficient. Yes, they bogged down. But for the first real snaps, with a couple of guys out there that aren't necessarily used to it, I thought it went well. And as far as the execution part was concerned, how did you think it went?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. I went back and I watched during halftime the first drive, and you look at Kingsley Suamataia, and I didn't see anything that really even stood out to me. First couple of plays, he really wasn't. He didn't get engaged by the Jaguars. They didn't really come after him, so really hard to judge based on that. And then the last play, he was going up against Coleman, where Rasheed Rice dropped the ball and he stonewalled him. That's exactly what you want to see from your left tackle, and I think that really shows you where I think that they are. And it's going to be a big test because I do think that he's going to have a huge test against the Lions next week, because I do expect the Chiefs to go pretty much the entire first half with the starters. That's generally the way they do things. And it was a lot shorter tonight than it usually is for the entirety of the ones. I wasn't surprised that they took Mahomes out, but it was kind of surprising because they usually leave some of the other guys in, and maybe even the line, to get time with the backup quarterback, and they didn't even do that tonight.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. I was actually hoping for a few more looks at Kingsley Suamataia, but I agree with you. I thought he got off to a good start and was solid. What isn't solid right now, at least that I have seen post-game as of yet, is the situation with Hollywood Brown. One reception goes to the ground, falls on his wrist, was obviously holding his arm, did not return to the ball game. I haven't seen any update from the Chiefs yet. What did you take away from that? What did it look like to you?
To me, I thought it said his shoulder. So I think it's his shoulder, not the wrist. Somebody just put in the chat that they think he has a broken collarbone. I have not seen that. I have not seen anything else from the team other than he was questionable to return, which is a lot better than what happened with McCade and Mettauer, which we can talk about a little bit later. But I think he's probably Mettauer. I want to be clear. Mettauer, I think, is out for probably the season based on the way he looked after going to the sideline.
Yeah, I hope that that's not the case. You never know. Judging off of an emotional reaction, and hopefully it just feels worse than it truly is. We can cross our fingers for him. To get into that situation, your first action, I do feel bad for him. Let's hope that we get a positive review there. And from the way that Hollywood was holding his arm, I think it could have been shoulder or AC joint or whatever it might be. He has had trouble. And the reason I go right to the wrist, because it looked like he was holding that distinctly, and he's had trouble with it in the past. So that's my big concern. Obviously, any injury to Hollywood Brown is a big, big deal.
Yeah, and I saw, and obviously we don't know. The doctors aren't going to know that are watching the game, but there was a doctor that said he thinks it's an AC joint and hopefully just a sprain. That's kind of what my hope is it's just a sprain of the AC joint. But we'll know a lot more. We may not know tonight, probably won't know tonight, maybe not even tomorrow, but I think you'll have a pretty good idea of where he is. If he shows up at practice on Monday and he's at least on the field, I think that's a good sign. If he's not out there at all, then that is going to be something to be concerned about.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And in the lieu of that, it puts a lot of pressure on the other wide receivers. Xavier Worthy, I felt his presence tonight, even though it was limited snaps and he didn't get targeted. But you could see, especially on the catch that injured Hollywood Brown, the safeties are playing him 25 yards deep.
Oh, they
the
were
far side
deep.
safety just took off. It was crazy. So just the fact alone, Hollywood getting that pass is one thing, but Xavier Worthy is out there and teams are definitely scared of his speed.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because he didn't get any targets tonight. But considering how quickly he got pulled from the game, I mean, it's really hard to expect that they're going to go to him that early on. I mean, you're going to try to get your other guys involved. Hollywood was obviously the guy that they wanted to get involved first, and they got him involved. And be clear about it. If he's able to come back and play the regular season, which I'm expecting right now, that first route, the way he ran it, the way he was able to get separation, the way he was able to come in with the ball, that's a first down. They're going to move the sticks. They're going to move the sticks often with this offense because you saw what they were able to do. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. You talk about the first drive, and the big thing that I took away from it is obviously Mahomes was off a little bit on that last pass to Rashee Rice, but you got to come up with those. I'm glad it happened in the preseason, but you got to at least catch those. I know it's a tough catch, but that's something you got to bring in.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you in any way. Overall, I felt like the line looked like they were coming together. Obviously, with Caliendo in there at left guard, he moved over to center with the second group when they took over on the next drive. We're going to get into that. One other guy that I felt looked good was Isaiah Pacheco in multiple ways, but certainly running the ball. We are going to get to him and the standout of the night in the run game coming up next. Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. Make sure if you need 24/7 coverage of the NFL, you check out our 24/7 stream here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On NFL Today is available now. You can get it here on Amazon Fire TV, and I think you will absolutely dig it. We have a lot to go over, and I do want to say a quick shout out to KL, Brenda, Kyle. A lot of our stalwarts are here. Nice to see you guys in a live post game. Includes Minotaur, Rob, and you guys have a lot of good questions. We're going to cover most of them, and I will try to get to everything else. I will also be live on RGR here after this show, so make sure you jump over there later. Run game, I feel it's just timing, right? I've been screaming for the run game to come back in this offense for, 7 seasons. And it looks like the pendulum might finally swing back if teams are going to play deep coverage like that all the time. But I felt like it was evident how much more work Andy and the offense have put in to the run game in this preseason already, because Pacheco came out and I felt like he ran hard. He had the angles. The O-line was getting the job done enough. I think it was an 8-yard average tonight for him. What was your takeaway? And do you think they can build on it?
I definitely think they can build on it. My takeaway, and I agree with you. I thought the first string running game looked good. I think you get into the second string offensive line, and I think that you had problems. They didn't look like they were on the same page. It didn't look as clean and as crisp as I was expecting it to be. So I'm hoping that we will see something different. But I think that you look at your boy Carson Steele. I think you have some thoughts that you want to probably say on him.
I mean, I saw this coming. I tried to tell everybody. It was very clear to me. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm glad to see that he lived up to the potential that I saw. It's good for him. On the night, yes, Isaiah Pacheco 2 carries for 16 yards for an 8-yard average. Steele, while running people over, a 7.3 average. And yes, it was against twos. So we do have to keep that in mind. There is a decline in competition there. But I think he showed you what I've been trying to communicate to people off of his film pre-draft, is that he isn't just a fullback. And I think this showed it. And I love the way Isaiah Pacheco runs. He brings that aggressiveness. I think Steele's is even more natural. And so now you have maybe two Thunder aspects. I still feel they need a lightning, but I like this 1, 2, 3, 4 punch here. And I do think this is a fourth running back that will be on this roster.
Yeah, and I saw something reported in the chat, and I wanted to go check it on X. It is being reported by Sam McDowell. Hollywood Brown has suffered the same injury that Tyreek Hill suffered in Jacksonville back in 2019. He is currently at the hospital being checked out.
Good gosh. That is terrible. Confirmed by Nate Taylor just a moment ago as well, folks. This is damage to a collarbone. This is what happened with Tyreek. It can be a number of things, either a separation. You can even get a fracture of it where it pierces the skin. Something like that would be season ending. Tyreek's was not. You can have ligament tears on there that can prolong your season. One way or the other, my guess is we will not see Hollywood Brown for the rest of this preseason.
Guaranteed.
And hopefully,
just about guaranteed,
with that much rest. Well, you still have to determine what it is. If it's sprain of ligaments, it might be doable. I hope not. I think they'll take it easy. I'm just hoping that that's what it is, and it's week 1. This is not a confirmation of diagnosis. This is trying to find that diagnosis. So let's hold off any conclusions until we get that actual report. I'm sure the Chiefs will have that for us tomorrow. Let's just not play in Jacksonville anymore.
To be clear, I wanted to say I'm saying he's out until at least the regular season, because there's no way. I think it doesn't matter if it's a collarbone sprain. He's not going to be back for next week, and they're not going to play him week 3. So to me, he's out of the preseason at this point. So, but he's got basically 3 weeks to get healthy. If that's possible, we'll see. This does bring up an interesting question. One of the guys that got released yesterday was Juju Smith-Schuster. Is that a possibility you would like to see? I know we need to focus on this, but I thought I would throw it out there.
I know that's a good point. Let's table that for a minute, because I'm not letting you get off my guy Steele. I think he's pushed his way onto the roster now. Yeah, right. No, we will come back to it because it's absolutely important. But I think Steele has to be on the roster now. Because I think that's proven it. Even against twos, this was enough of a night that you didn't see that spark from Deneric Prince. You didn't see that spark, obviously, from Clyde, who may still be holding on to the number 1 or the number 2 role, despite Deneric Prince getting so much run. But this is the thing. Not only can Steele go to an H-back, go to a fullback, and no, folks, I tweeted it out during the game. He is not a fullback. He is a running back. I do think that in case Pacheco were to have to miss time, if he sprains his ankle for a week or two, you can get a similar style out of Steele when you need tough yards, when you need to be aggressive and physical. And I think that replacement just bought him more of an option to be on the 53, unlike Louis Rees-Zammit, who I actually thought made progression in his ability to move in the backfield and understand where he needs to get to. But clearly he's not playing the sport. He is not at the level to beat out any of those top 4 running backs, right?
I would agree with that. The question that comes with Zammit, and this is something I kind of want to talk about in the first segment, but we didn't get to it. He's in their top returner team. So does he make the roster as a returner? And I think that it could come down to a question of, do you keep Carson Steele or do you keep Zammit? Because at this point, you're going to have you're going to have trouble keeping everybody you want to on this roster anyway. And I hate putting it that way, but the reality is that you're in a situation where I think you have to keep Deneric Prince. And obviously Clyde has guaranteed money. Pacheco's the number one. So I would think that you were in a situation where, it's going to be something where you have to decide between those two. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to see. I thought Carson looked great tonight. He showed strength. He bounced off tackles. He was able to get in for the touchdown. He obviously played a much better game than I was expecting him to. And I didn't think that he wasn't going to play well, but I didn't expect what I saw. But they didn't really use him in a fullback role, which is interesting as well, because that is what they have him listed as. But I didn't really see him hitting in a fullback role. So, like you said, he is a running back, and I get that, but I was kind of surprised that they didn't show him in a fullback role at all, or at least that I saw.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And honestly, I think maybe that's just a positional label of convenience, because he really can do everything. And I do think he can be an H-back in the future as well. I saw a few reps of that on his UCLA film. Clearly needs more seasoning there, but he can get there. But plenty of other guys stood out in good and bad ways. A lot of you have comments in there. We're going to try to take a couple of your questions late if we can squeeze it all in. But if not, we're going to run down our standouts coming up next here in the Locked On Podcast Network.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of the small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats it might not have the time and resources to hire. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe you never skip a leg day. Maybe it's watching football every Saturday and Sunday. Maybe it's therapy day. Whatever it is, figure out what your non-negotiables are and don't miss them. When your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you're thinking of starting therapy, go give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Make sure you check out Locked On NFL today if you want 24/7 coverage of this sport. Lots going on, obviously, first week of preseason. We are going to speed through quick answers on everything so we can get to all these guys. Let me ask you this first. I thought this was a thumbs up for Justin Ross. Obviously, he was throwing passes that fit his style. And unfortunately, net on net, I thought he started well, but I thought Nico Remigio had a couple of issues that dropped his stock a little bit.
I would agree with that. I think that but it's not a one for, and that's the big thing. And that's the thing that we have to, that they are going to have to look at is it's not a one for one thing. It's not a, who makes the team based on wide receiver play. It's a who makes the team based on contribution for the Chiefs. And as of right now, Remigio is still probably ahead of Ross because he is going to be probably their returner at this point. So maybe that changes. We'll see. But that's at least what it looks like right now is he was the guy that was out there for the first kickoff return with Louis Rees-Zammit. I do think that makes a difference in how this goes. And I'm I would love to hear from him why he decided to jump for that ball. It didn't look like it was needed, and it looked like it was not the correct thought process there. Because if he doesn't jump for it, it's probably a big play, and we're talking about this in a completely different situation.
Yeah, I will say this. You're absolutely right. You have to take the whole and every contribution he can make. He did. We have to remember this was his first significant time on an NFL field against someone who wasn't his teammate. So I'm going to give him a little bit there, and we'll see what he does next week. And you're right. The return responsibilities are going to be paramount. But with the Hollywood injury, I think we're both comfortable that Rashee Rice probably isn't going to get suspended this year. But the Juju thing that you brought up before, I do think that's worth addressing. Yes, there's knowledge there, but I'm not sure with Rashee Rice doing what he does that there's room in the offense for Juju's style to – I don't think he complements Rice enough. I think he duplicates it.
Maybe. I wonder if Kansas City would look at it, just looking at it and saying, okay, it's a way to raise the ceiling, way to raise the floor if he's healthy enough to play, because that's really what you are wanting to do with the guy that you're going to bring at that level. The question with Brown is how long is he going to be out? Matt Derrick just put out that Tyreek was out 4 to 6 weeks. Generally speaking, that would mean that Brown is out till probably October. That would change things a little bit. That would mean that he would start the season on IR and be able to come back after that. So maybe that changes the roster numbers a little bit. And yeah, somebody's saying in the chat, yeah, Ross played special teams last year as a gunner. I don't think that's where he's going to play this year. Remigio is the guy that they want as their kick returner. It's a completely different situation. That is more important than just a gunner.
Yeah, the gunner is that role is pretty much out of the kickoff at this point, period. So yeah, I don't think that's a viable road to the 53. But we also know that Justin Watson didn't play in this game. You never know what his injury status is going to be. So I do think Ross is still there hanging in. It was interesting to me that Sky Moore got the reps out there with the top 3.
That was very telling to me.
Yeah, and he did have a great block on one of those downfield passes. So I was happy to see that as well. Kels got in and out okay. Other guys that stood out to me, I thought it was slow. The first quarter against the ones was a little slow. But after that, Jaden Hicks looks like the real deal and was coming on strong. I think he will just adapt to the speed of the game against ones. I expect to see a step up from him next week. What did you see?
No, I thought Jaden Hicks looks fantastic. I think that's going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun to see how he grows and can continue to help this defense. And it is getting to a point now where you're starting to wonder if you're going to see Reed this season, this preseason. I want to be clear, because I would have figured he'd be back by now, and he has not practiced. So more than likely, I would guess he's not playing in the preseason at all, because at this point, I don't think that you could bring him back to practice on Monday and have him play in the game on Saturday. I don't think that you would do that. And if they don't have him play in that game, I don't think there's any possible way they're having him play week 3 unless he's just there doing kicks, maybe. But that would be the only way I would see him playing week 3. That's just based on the way that they've done it in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one question mark. I did see Gillespie make a couple plays late. Deion Bush certainly did. So there's depth there that I think they'll be okay at safety. We talked running back. We talked wide out. On the offensive line, I thought the shuffle was telling. Chu came in initially along with Niang. Later, Driscoll got in there. I was very happy to see Driscoll get some snaps. But clearly he is a practice squad player at this point. I didn't see enough to tell me that he can get onto the 53 by the time that he has allotted, and that's okay. He's still adapting, and he's got a longer way to go. I like that plan for him.
Well, he's got a huge frame, and if you can put him on the practice squad for a year, you may really have something there, because if you could put NFL weight on him, I think that if he can keep his agility and his ability to block and stay in front of people, I think that could go a long way to being maybe a swing guy down the road for the Chiefs, or maybe the 4th tackle. I was surprised because it sounded like before the game started that Driscoll was going to get the start at left tackle, or LT2, sorry. And they brought in Chu instead. They brought in Godric instead when the 2s came out. So a little surprising there, but and Driscoll did whiff on something late in the game. I don't remember if it was third quarter or fourth quarter, and I can't remember if it was Book or if it was Oladokin that was the quarterback. But he made it a lot harder than it needed to be and whiffed on a block. He's definitely got some work to do there. The big thing in the other question that you have to ask is, where's Caliendo? How is he going to fit into this offensive scheme? He was the guy that was in when the high snap happened. Well, he was at guard, but yeah, he was also the center that had the high snap. And I still put most of that on Wentz because it hit Wentz in the hands in front of his face. So I think that that's something he should have caught. Not going to say it's not high, but I still think that Wentz needs to make that and secure it. But, that's one of those things that you're going to have to watch. How is that going to play into who's going to make the roster? Because we've talked about it. Their numbers are going to be tough.
Yeah. I will not be surprised because of that high snap, amongst other things, that we see Norzad get the backup center role next week to do a comparison, to give that contrast. I like that. On the defensive side, I thought FAU played hard. I thought he made a couple of nice pass rushes. He certainly was more of a grinder and played through snaps more to get wrap-up plays, to get other things when the quarterback was flushed. I was happy with his performance. My guy Lovett is not as far along as I had hoped. He looks a little bit improved from his college film, but he's still playing with too high a pad level. He's still got a good first step, and he actually got more penetration tonight than I expected from him. But he's not quite there. I can see why they're playing Dickerson over him. I didn't think Farrell put in a whole lot of effort tonight. How did you feel about him?
Oh, I thought he looked better than not putting in a lot of effort, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to make the roster. Like I said, it's going to be tough making cuts at all these positions. But the other thing that stood out to me is I think FAU had some really good snaps. He had some bad snaps too. Really kind of surprised at the way that Spags did his defense tonight, because generally speaking, you'll see him go pretty vanilla, and it'll be, the defensive lines, the guys that are going after the QB, and maybe you'll send a blitz every now and then. But on one specific play, FAU was 20 yards downfield covering somebody. So didn't expect to see him doing that tonight, but he was able to do it. And obviously the guy caught it, so it wasn't a great coverage. But the other guy that stood out is Cochran. I think Cochran has made a lot more improvement than I was expecting him to have. I'm not going to say he was great, but I think he's probably going to be on the roster based on the way he played tonight.
I agree. He's definitely going to be on the roster. I was underwhelmed with his performance. I did not think he played through contact very well. The same can be said of my guy, Cam Jones, who I thought would be ahead of him by now, but clearly is still too slow to read, is not keying well. And honestly, Cam still isn't shedding enough. Those are the two things for those two guys, but I believe they are the 5th and 6th linebackers. So I'm with you there. I'm a little concerned about the position overall right now without Bolton, but I think we're going to get there. So
I thought it was interesting in telling that Tranquil and Chanel were all the two guys that were out there, and you didn't have Cochran out there with the starter, at least for the first series.
Yeah, and kudos to Leo. He got run around a little bit, but
yeah, as far as special teams goes with the kickoff and all that, that's going to get figured out. I have faith in Tobe to get that figured out. Prince needs to learn the rules, and I guess so does Hardman for that matter.
Yeah, I saw something in the chat, folks. I do think that would have been a safety in the old rules as well, because he pulled the ball in from the field of play and back. But if it went down, it did touch down in the end zone at first, right?
Yep.
Rolled out, and he pulled it back. So I do think that entered the field of play in the old rules. Clearly, we all need to brush up on that. We'll do that for the next game.
Which it's different.
We're going to continue to break this down.
If they do that and they're on the sideline, the ball's considered kicked out of bounds. So, like, if he would have been on the sideline instead of the end zone, that would have been a ball at the 40 because he would have been out of bounds. But obviously, that's not what happened. But it's going to be interesting to see how that kickoff rule changes. It was kind of fun to see Reese Zammit get a chance to kick off the ball as well.
Yeah, I will say this too. They do have a lot of work to go. This was by far the worst special teams effort I've seen so far this weekend. I caught a couple of games earlier today and the one the other night. Nobody seems to have as much trouble as the Chiefs did, so they do have their work cut out for them. We're going to continue to break this down next time. There's a lot more to go over. We appreciate you guys being with us live for the post game. this is the starting point. This is not the end point. We'll have an update for you on Brown when we get that as well.
Just want to touch on this because this is what we just talked about. They changed that rule. If it lands in the end zone, it is still a live ball. That changed this year with the kickoff rule. So just wanted to point that out. Last year,
okay.
it was automatically a touchback. Now it's not.
I clearly have to go over all of these rules yet again. So we're going to do that. And we're going to be back with you tomorrow night with our Monday edition. So make sure you like, sub, hit the bell, get with us. We will break it all down further for you. I will be live here in a little bit over on RGR, and we'll go through our reactions with Dan and the crew over there. So appreciate you guys being with us. Thanks for spending your time post-game. We know there's a lot of people you could be watching right now, and I'm glad to see you. Thanks for running everything, and have a great evening. We will catch you next time for more on Chiefs Jaguars. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.